This is Jonathan Agarfield for Pro Boxing fans. We're here in Glasgow. It's fight week. The undisputed super lightweight title is on the line. Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall. I'm joined by Matt Macklin. Matt, have you recovered from last week yet?
Just about. I mean, just trying to catch up on some sleep, and now we're back up here. But listen, it's all good. We're living the dream. We're working in boxing, getting to cover the fights. Best seat in the house. So it wouldn't be right if I was complaining, would it?
I mean, before we get on to this fight, can't not talk about Saturday night. Convincing win from Kell Brook in the end. Did the fight go how you expected?
Do you know, I didn't know how it was going to go because, you know, Khan hasn't boxed for 3 years. You know, Brook nearly 18 months. Wasn't sure what either guy had left. Then in the fight week, Khan seemed to be the more comfortable in the gloves are off and things like that. But then, you know, that's not always a true reflection because it depends on your personality. Some people are just better talkers than others. So I thought it was so hard to predict because there were just so many unknown questions. You like say, what do either guy have left? But look, I think Khan got hurt early, didn't he? Brook always looked really in the driver's seat after that, although Khan was never out of it because he kept recovering, kept coming back, and you know he still got the speed, the hand speed, and you just with Brook being tight at the weight, you just think, I wonder, you know, Brook had put his foot to the gas a couple of times looking for the finish, didn't get it, and then you wonder, you know, is he going to blow up in the second half if Khan can stay in there? But you know, eventually he hurt him again and put the shots together, and the ref jumped in and stopped. Then I actually thought it was probably the perfect timing of the stoppage because you know, he took a lot of hard shots, and you know, Khan's never going to quit because he's too game. But it was the right call from the referee, I thought.
Obviously, Kell Brook's been linked with two names in particular now, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. What's your thoughts on both of those potential fights? Personally,
for me, I think Kell Brook should retire now. I think no matter what happens in boxing now, he's never going to top that night. You know, I mean, you've seen what it meant to him. You know, all those years back and forth with Amir Khan, fight happening, not happening. You know, everyone picking who they think will win, all the rest of it, and it's like that chapter's closed now. He's got peace with that situation, you know, and you know he's 35 years old. He's had the 2 eye injuries. Yeah, he beat Khan, but I think both of them, what we talked about, we didn't make any bones about it. They were both over the hill, but they were both over the hill, so it was a level playing field in that regard. So, but really, guys like Eubank and kind of Ben, they're young lions, aren't they? They're fresher, and I just don't think Brook needs it. I don't see. There's nothing really to gain except money, and he must have plenty of money. So, for me, if Brook was my brother or my good friend, I'd be telling him, job done, box ticked, sail off into the sunset.
But as a fighter, when you get to this stage in your career, and you know, did you ever get to a point where you were thinking, should I have one more? Should I call it a day?
He'll be thinking it, of course he will, because he just will be, you know, and the options are there and the talk's there. And listen, it'd have been on absolute cloud. It'd have been higher than the moon on Saturday night, you know, and that's an addictive feeling. You want to create that. Who wouldn't want to chase that high again? But you got to be careful with chasing highs, you know, because there's a terrible low that can come as well. And you know, look, I don't know what he'll do. It's his choice. It's his choice. But if he was a good pal, if he was here now and we were talking, my opinion, I'd go out on that note because I don't think anything he does now after that will top that.
Let's talk about Taylor-Catterall. Obviously this weekend, Josh Taylor is a big favourite, rightly so, but you know, how do you read this fight and what chance Jack Catterall's got?
Well, look, I think that look where Jack Catchall has been performing and where Josh Taylor's been performing, and you look at their resumes and their opposition, and you know, they're chalk and cheese. You know, he's like, Catchall's done everything asked of him and done it comfortably. Taylor's definitely boxed at the superior level. That said, Catchall's never really looked uncomfortable, or he's never been pushed really close. Like, you know, he looks, so there could be another couple of levels to go in him. you know, this is a homecoming for Josh Taylor. It's a big thing. There's probably more media attention, you know, people ringing him, wanting to get, you know, whatever. You know, it could be a distraction, and he only has to kind of underperform. And he might think Catchall, you know, coming down from boxing with guys like Ramirez and that, he might think, oh, this is just my mandatory that I've got to get out of the way. Who's he boxed? And if he is thinking like that, and I'm not saying he is, I don't know, but if he is, and he underperforms by 10 or 15%, and actually Jack Catterall performs 10, 15, 20% better than we've ever seen, and he has got those extra gears to go, and he can translate from what he's done in the gym, in sparring, onto the fight, night of the fight. All of a sudden, that gap closes, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And look, we see it all the time in all sports, never mind boxing, where there's only, you know, 2 men in it. You see it in a game of football when there's 11 on each side. So, you know, and they can make substitutions. You know, all of a sudden, you know, you're not as quite up for it as you normally are, and you underperform, and the other guy boxes out his skin. What looked like a 7-1 fight suddenly becomes a lot closer.
Is Josh Taylor currently your sort of British pound for pound fighter though, number one?
Look, Fury, Taylor, you know, you're splitting hairs, aren't you? It's a matter of, who knows? It's opinions, isn't it? I'd put them the same.
And, you know, where you mentioned sort of, you know, the potential of complacency, obviously people are talking about Terence Crawford and what might be next for Josh Taylor if he wins it. He doesn't strike me as a guy who would take his eye off the ball, but does that exist with fighters where you're potentially looking at other fighters, or do you stay focused on the job in hand? Yeah, look, no one intends to take their eye off the ball. Do you know what I mean? Like when they talk complacency, it's not like these lads that go out on the piece and don't train for the fight. You know, that's not what happens. But complacency is something that creeps in subconsciously. You know, it's you don't even realise it's happened. Everyone thinks, no, I'm talking, I'm focused, I've done all the training, I'm on this, I'm up for it. But when you've took your eye off the ball, what that means is if you've been talking about Terence Crawford and Teofimo Lopez, even if you've tried not to, people firing those questions at you automatically takes your focus away from what it should be focused on. So it's such a hard thing to guard against. It really is. It's probably, you know, it's the biggest fear, really. If you're around a young fighter coming through and he's going well and he's undefeated, your biggest fear really is trying to guard against this complacency getting in. Two more, Matt, and then we'll finish up. Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte look like they've both signed their contracts. What's your early thoughts on the fight? Look, you've got to back Fury. He's got to be the favourite. Of course you have, but I'm glad Dillian's getting his shot because, you know, he's been mandatory or number one for so long, and he deserves his shot. Fury's a favourite. I'd pick him to win, but it's definitely not a gimme. It's not a foregone conclusion. Again, if Tyson Fury doesn't perform, then all of a sudden that could be a hard fight. What would Dillian, if you were training him, what would you say he has to do to win the fight? Look, Dillian's got a deceivingly good jab. You know, he's tough. He's very good at that catch and counter left hook. You know. I haven't studied it, the fight, and broke it down, but look, Fury's the favourite in it. You know, Dillian's earned his shot, he's mandatory challenger, and he's a threat. You know, Tyson's got to be at the top of his game. Assuming he is at the top of his game, I'd pick him to win. Final one, just waiting to hear what Canelo Alvarez is going to do next. Reports of Golovkin and who's the other? Dimitri Bivol. Charlo as well, potentially in the mix. Yeah. Who would you like to see him fight next, first of all? Look, I'd like to see him fight Charlo, probably. Or if not Charlo, maybe Bivol, if he goes up to light heavy again. Golovkin, I don't know if I'd like to see that fight again because Golovkin's not the fighter he was. You know, I thought he got robbed the first time. Second one, very close, could have gone either way. And I just don't think that I think Golovkin's only deteriorated. You know, I don't think he'll have, you know, he's got older, a bit slower, and I think Canelo would be, you know, a strong favourite in the third one. And final one, which current fight today do you think gives Canelo his toughest test? I don't know, maybe Demetrius Andrade.
slick southpaw, clever, difficult person to beat. There's been guys like, I know he caught up with Billy Joe in the end, but that was you could see the movement and the southpaw speed gave him a few problems. Look, he found a way, as he always does, Canelo. But even Austin Trout earlier on in his career, Lara as well. They're guys that generally have given him problems. So probably Demetrius Andrade.
Beterbiev, do you think?
Yeah, maybe Beterbiev because of the physicality, possibly. Yeah.
Matt, we'll leave it there. Taylor-Catterall this Saturday night. Appreciate it.